So good morning, everyone. My name is Marianne Maestas. I'm the new relatively new ICIP coordinator. And thank you all for signing up and coming to today's training that we are hosting with IAD. This training we called Using the ICIP to Advance Your Tribal Infrastructure Projects, and hope that it could be useful for you all as you all are completing your ICIPs this year. If you have any questions during the training, of course, feel free to put them in the chat as we're going through, and we'll try to answer them as we go along. So here's our agenda for today. We'll do some quick introductions of some of the folks who are presenting today. We'll talk about what the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan is and the different components that are included in the ICIP. And then we'll go over some of the resources that are available for you all, some funding sources that you can use the ICIP for, and as well as learning from other tribal governments and tribal communities around the state who are working on infrastructure projects. And just a little housekeeping, if you're able to keep yourselves muted, that would be very much appreciated. I think someone might be unmuted, so let me try to find them real quick. There we go. So here are today's presenters. Like I said, my name is Marianne Maestas. I know some of you all, but I am looking forward to getting to know more of you and learn about some of the things that you're working on in your community. Denise, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Oh, it's kind of dark here. Good morning. My name is Denise Copeland. I work for Capital Projects Management Department with the Division of Community Development at the Navajo Nation. I have been working with the ICIP for probably about 25 years and have been helping the chapters on the Navajo Nation with their submittals to the ICIP. And I'm happy to be here to help Marianne with this presentation.
Thank you, Denise. And then I'll pass it to the lovely folks at the Indian Affairs Department.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tasanaki Crazy Bull. I am Sichangu Lakota and Shoshone Paiute, and I am the incoming TIF Capital Outlay Manager.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Vanessa Gutierrez, and I am TIF Capital Outlay Administrator.
Good morning. My name is Jeffrey Christensen. I'm also with Indian Affairs as a TIF Capital Outlay Administrator.
Good morning. My name is Monica Cordova, and I'm also a TIF Capital Outlay Administrator. Welcome.
Thank you all. And then we'll hear from some of the other folks that work at DFA who will be presenting later on. So the purpose of this session is to talk about who looks at infrastructure capital improvement plans, how do communities submit their ICIP to DFA, what other communities have done. So we'll hear from Poake Pueblo, or information from Kiwa Pueblo and Chichilta chapter of the Navajo Nation. We'll talk about what resources there are to complete your ICIP, and including what kind of assistance we can offer to help you all. And then we're going to talk about the ICIP and how it relates to funding opportunities and getting your projects funded. So understanding ICIP, what is it? So it stands for Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan. It's a planning tool. So it's really just a tool to help you plan your infrastructure projects and to ensure that your current assets and infrastructure are being maintained over the years, so you're not finding yourself in any sort of emergency where you really need to fix something or repair something that is instrumental to your community. It is a multi-year roadmap, so it is for a 5-year period in the future. And it really outlines your government's priorities for infrastructure and facility investments. And hopefully it really does help you coordinate your budgets, really anticipate your needs and determine what type of financing you can pursue for different projects and what is best. So like I just mentioned, it is a roadmap to secure funding, whether it's state funding or other funding. It is a planning tool. The 5-year period this year is covering fiscal year 2027 to 2031. So that's July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2031. And it's always for a 5-year period. Last year was for fiscal year 2026 to 2030. And it is developed and updated annually and submitted to DFA annually. And this is something that decision makers in our state review and want to see communities complete. So there have been questions on what kind of infrastructure you can add to your ICIP, and this is just a little chart that covers some of the infrastructure projects that you all may consider, may want to do. I'm sure there are some things that aren't on this list that you all might want to plan for your communities, and it probably is something that you should put on there. Essentially, anything that is owned by your government is something that you should put on your ICIP. So what are the different components of the ICIP? So the ICIP asks you to prioritize the projects that you're going to be working on in that 5-year period. So it does ask you to rank them from number 1, and the list can go on. So you could have 100 projects, you could have 5 projects for any given year, but it does ask you to prioritize your projects and rank your projects. Like I just mentioned, it is for this upcoming 5-year period, so fiscal year 2027 to 2031. It asks you to determine what type of project it is, whether it's a water project, if it's a broadband project, if it's an economic development project, if it's a housing project, so on and so forth. It asks you to name where the project will be, whether it's where the building that you're going to build will be, where your water lines will be, what community it's for. It asks you to determine a scope of work. So what specifically do you want to do, and what kind of work do you want to complete? It asks you to determine what the budget for your project will be. So doing some cost estimates or getting some cost estimate work done to determine a accurate budget for what your project will be. It asks you how you will phase or structure your project. Is this something that you're going to do in 1 year for one phase? Is this something that is going to take multiple years? And to really think about how you're able to structure your project. It asks you to think about what types of funding you'll apply for or use, whether it's funds from your government, grants that you'll apply to, capital outlay, the Tribal Infrastructure Fund, so on and so forth. It asks you what funding you have designated already, and whether it's funding that you've applied for and you've received or it's been granted to you. It asks you if you've thought about how much it'll cost to maintain this asset or whatever infrastructure you're planning for. Is it something that you've thought about including in your operating expenses and your operating budget? And it does ask some additional questions like who in your community is this benefiting? Approximately how many people will this benefit? And how does this project that you're that is a priority for your government, how is it advancing any community goals you've set forth? And lastly, one of the questions is, how does this project promote safety or get rid of hazards and risks for your community? Whether it's something that's helping to prevent certain types of emergencies or risks, or improve the health and the health of your community. So here are some common misconceptions on the ICIP. Some folks do talk about it being a wish list of everything they could ever want to have or to purchase for the community to acquire. But really, we don't like to view it as a wish list. We would like communities to think thoughtfully about what the needs are and how to realistically get to those needs. It's not a funding application or a funding source. It's a planning tool and helps show how ready you are to undertake a project and how much planning has been put into a project. Sometimes our office will get calls of, well, we did our ICIP, did we get the money? And you know, we don't want that to be the case, because we want folks to know that it's a tool and you'll have to, you know, apply or put out those requests. So we don't want you waiting for, you know, funding. And it's not a capital outlay request, but it is something that if you enter your projects into your ICIP for the capital outlay request that goes through Legislative Council Services, you can actually transfer the data from everything you entered into the ICIP into their request form. So it's not an automatic application for capital outlay, but you are able to transfer the data, which is nice. So you don't have to re-enter all the data into your capital outlay requests. So how can you use your ICIP to access funding? Different funding sources ask for, you know, the ICIP project number. So that's a specific 5-digit code for any project that you enter onto your government's ICIP profile or database. So the capital outlay request form asks you for that. The Tribal Infrastructure Fund asks you for that. And we'll hear more from IED later in this presentation. Aging and Long-Term Services asks for it when you're applying for senior center facility capital outlay. And you can also use the plan that you created for any given project for other funding sources. And we'll hear a little bit more from our Capital Navigation and Funding Assistance Bureau on some other funding opportunities and how you can use your ICIP for those. So here's just a quick overview of the timeline for the ICIP process this year. And so right now we are in a period of doing some trainings. We had a few other trainings earlier this year. Tribal tribal government ICIPs are due on July 11th. So in just a little more than a month. As we review ICIPs from different governmental entities, whether it's special districts or senior centers or cities and counties around the state, we review all of those that are submitted to us, and we will contact you. And if we see any errors or if we have any suggestions to make your ICIP more complete. Sometimes some folks miss, you know, a couple of boxes here or there, or they miss some information for the budget, or they entered information in the wrong place. So we really try to give you feedback on your ICIPs and allow you time to make those corrections so that they are more complete and they are a little bit more accurate and reflective for what you all are doing with your infrastructure projects. In October, we will publish all the ICIPs that get submitted to us, and it'll come in a document that we add to our website. We also send this out to the governor's office and to legislators so that, you know, they can find the different communities in their districts and, you know, look through some of the plans and see what their communities are needing and wanting to do within that 5-year period. It's also will be available, all of this data will be available on our website through the ICIP dashboard, which is an interactive map where you can look, and whether it's a specific county or you want to look by, you know, you want to look at all the projects in the Navajo Nation, you're able to do that on the dashboard on our website. So this information is publicly available to anyone, whether it's community members or New Mexico residents or folks who work at different agencies in the state, or even sometimes we'll get questions from engineering firms and other organizations like that on information on the dashboard. And then the New Mexico legislative session is January through February this upcoming year, and we also get requests to see different ICIPs throughout the legislative session from legislators and their offices. So these are the different deadlines for the ICIP this year. Tribal governments, like I said, just before, the ICIPs are due Friday, July 11th. So just a little over a month. And then the final publication will be October 3rd. So this is the current ICIP website. It probably is recognizable by most of you all. The login part of the website is in this top right corner. And then after you log in to get into your ICIP profile, you click the blue ICIP button. If you are maybe a new staff member and you don't have the ICIP login information for your government, please contact me and I can provide that information to you all. Right now, every government has one login. So there aren't different logins for different staff at your government. So just let me know if you do need the login for that and we can get you set up. This website will be linked down here, and this presentation will be posted on our website, and the recording will also be posted on our website. So you will be able to go in and click on this website. But if you search ICIP or go to the Infrastructure Planning and Development Division page, you'll also be able to access the ICIP site there. But sometimes it can be kind of hard to find. So if anything, you'll have this presentation if you don't already know where the website lives. And I'll pass it off to one of our deputy directors, Scott Wright, to give a short spiel about our new platform that's coming.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Marianne. It's great to be here. I did want to let everybody on the meeting know that we are going to be transitioning the ICIP from the system that you have come to know into something that's a little bit more functional. It's easier to use. And in this picture here, just one thing is if you are accustomed to entering the latitude and the longitude for projects, this is going to allow you to do that, but you could also draw it on the map. It's going to be a lot easier to pinpoint locations, and moving forward, this is also going to be connected to the capital outlay questionnaire system. If you all are familiar with doing the questionnaires for capital outlay, and then also it's going to connect to what is known as CPMS, or the Capital Projects Monitoring System. And over time, this is going to help us understand and view not just us, the state agencies or the tribes, but also legislators and the public about existing infrastructure projects, as well as infrastructure projects that are needed across the state. I also, if you look at the bottom right corner, we do have some general language that you all can put in, and then you can click generate legislative language. So we're using AI to make your jobs easier when it comes to these infrastructure capital improvements plans. And so we're looking ahead to the future. We're bringing the ICIP into the 21st century. I think it's going to be a much overdue improvement to the system in general. But with that, I will say, Denise, with your experience with the ICIP, when we enter the user testing phase, I think we'll need some feedback based on your experience and others in this group on what's working and what's not before we go into production. So before I the hand went down. So I will then turn it back to Marianne. Thank you all.
Thank you, Scott. And so I'm just seeing Angela posted in the chat, do tribes, pueblos, nations plan projects together and submit ICIP applications jointly? If so, what are some examples or reasons for not doing so? So I think I might understand your question, but if I am misunderstanding, please let me know and please unmute. So every tribe, pueblo, and nation have their own ICIP profiles, of course, and their own accounts to add all the projects that they are working on or want to be working on in that 5-year period. For regional projects, so say a few pueblos were going to do a regional project, say in the north. We do recommend that folks who are working on joint regional projects add that project to each of their ICIPs. And previous guidance has suggested that it's all the same priority. So if it's the 3rd priority project for each pueblo in this instance. So we do definitely encourage regional projects and projects that are worked on within multiple governments. And I'll just say we do encourage folks to add those projects to each of their individual ICIP accounts, if that answers your question.
This is Angela. Thank you for that. I was wondering if there are examples, but that answers my question because the angle I'm coming from is regional planning and bridging resources. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And later on, if folks do have any examples, I can't think of anything right now, but if folks do have any examples of regional projects, we would love to hear about them. And just to add to Scott's note about the new system, this is one of the reasons why we do review ICIPs and ask folks to make any updates or fix any errors, because when we transition everything, we're going to take everything from this system into the new system, and we want you all to start off with the most accurate information in the best format and way possible. And Denise Copeland will be going over the ICIP cycles and some of the different steps that we recommend folks go through to plan their infrastructure capital improvement projects. So I'll pass it off to Denise.
So good morning. This is the cycle for the ICIP, and you can see that it has like 16 steps to go through. So the first thing you're going to do is determine the process. You're going to formulate the goals. You're going to review your existing plans and analyze all the way through to submitting your resolution. This cycle is on DFA's website, and so you can always look back at this, and you want to try to do every step so that you can get the most optimistic and optimal information into your ICIP. So we're going to go to the next slide. So you're going to determine your process. It's a seed, and you're going to plant your seed, and you're going to allot time and space and resources to your project. You have to look at your ICIP and produce mission goals and objectives. That's on the I believe it's on the entity page that you have that, and you can fill out that information. This can be adjusted anytime. You want to make it so that your goals change over time. I know a lot of people don't ever change this, but it should match your land use plan for your communities or your chapter or the Navajo Nation or the Apache Nations or the Pueblos. Next, you want to review what you have on your plan. You want to look at your regulations for your communities or your tribe, and you want to look at the budget. What is it that you are trying to achieve with your ICIP? Next. We're going to then analyze the factors that will affect your community's future, and you want to describe it into your this is also on the infrastructure vision plan portion of the project. And then you're going to next inventory your existing facilities. Now on the Navajo Nation ICIP, it does actually have you go through and look at each one of your community buildings and your resources to see what needs to be completed and updated, and what needs repairs. Sometimes you need to make sure that your repairs will extend the life of your buildings. And if you don't make those repairs, then you become into a crisis situation. Then you need to identify your specific projects. What are you going to add? What's new, what renovations, repairs, and what replacements. This is a big one for the senior centers because they're constantly having to pay attention to their vehicles and make sure that they're usable, especially out on the reservation roads. It's quite a challenge, and I know on the Navajo Nation we're always making sure that they have the best equipment for those roads out there, and that they have four-wheel drive. The next step is to obtain accurate costs and technical options. We all have our specialties, and you want to look for people who can help you get those most accurate costs and find out what, like a project manager, what kind of things, how much it's going to cost. It's hard. You don't want to guesstimate. That happens a lot on the ICIP. You don't want to go ask anybody, so you guess, and then you don't want to be underfunded. You want to know exactly how much money you need to move forward with your project. Next, please. Next. Marianne.
I think it just might be delayed. Sorry.
Okay. You need to prioritize your projects. So this is a big one right now in the Navajo Nation. They want to be able to review your projects and vet them for completeness. So they want to make sure that if you're putting these in in order that they are construction ready or shovel ready. We've heard that word a lot. I don't personally like the word shovel ready because I don't think any project is shovel ready. There's always something that comes up at the last minute. So you have to be flexible, but you want to make sure that if you're requesting for the planning and the design, but you don't have the land, that becomes a problem, because that land denotes what planning and design can be done for your building or your road or your power line. So you have to take a look and make sure that you are prioritizing your projects and getting the money that you need for those projects at the proper time. So if you're asking for acquisition money, that's getting the land or getting the right-of-ways. If you're asking for planning and design, that is after you get the land, and so you can move your project forward, and you need to get those documents, either the studies for doing whatever project you're trying to do, because there's so many different projects. It's all different. And then if you're doing construction, you need to have the construction documents already. Don't ask for the construction dollars first. That happens a lot. You want to start with the land, then to the planning and design, then construction, and then furnishing equip. The next step is you have to analyze your capacity. What is your capacity at your community level? What's the capacity at the Navajo Nation? What's the capacity at the Pueblo? Whatever that capacity is, then that helps you have what we call skin in the game. So you want to be able to contribute to your own project. You need to ID your needs and sources. So what are your funding needs? How much is it going to cost? And where did you get that information? Then you do your develop your draft ICIP, and you make it into a 5-year plan. For the chapters, the Navajo Nation's plan is actually 6 years. So you have 2 different plans. You need to make sure that you keep them current and updated to each other. Next, please. Then you go to the community and you get feedback. You get community input. Everybody has their own ideas about projects, and they always want the projects for themselves, but you have to look at the community overall. You need to then take it to the community, and you adjust the priorities, and then you develop that plan and implement it. Once you've done that, you submit it to the governing body, which is the Navajo Nation is the Navajo Nation president. At the Pueblos, it's the Pueblo governor. I'm not sure about Apaches. I would think that it's either a president or a council resolution. You need to get that. The resolutions, you have about 5 weeks to get your resolution right now. If you can't get a resolution, then you need to get a letter from the governor president or the chapter president. Step 15, you want to enter all the data into the website and submit it. A lot of the communities want to see that first before they vote on it for a resolution. Next, please. And then you submit it to DFA. And I think that Marianne has some slides on that later. So the primary components of the ICIP are what projects you're going to be working on. So this slide here, it has some examples of things that you might reach out and find information from. The top picture is the Gadiai Administrative Building and Senior Center. They're almost complete with everything and ready to build, I think, the infrastructure to the buildings, the water line and the power lines. The one above is you have to have project meetings all the time. And so this is a project meeting from Mariano Lake chapter on their chapter facility. You have to get plans. So this is Santa Ana's Educational Center. Then at the bottom, this is the Shiprock Incident Command Center. It takes a lot of time to do these things. Some of these projects I started a long time ago. The Shiprock Incident Command Center started out as a fire station in 1991. And so it's finally being constructed now. So it can take a long time. Next, please. So first thing you got to do is you got to get your public participation. You meet with your tribal leaders, your project managers, and all your staff. That's how you get the right amounts for your budgets and stuff. The tribe then conducts surveys and interviews of the community memberships. You hold public hearings on your ICIP, so everybody in the community knows what's going on. You pass your resolution, or you get a letter from the governor, tribal president, or the chapter president. Next. You have to prioritize your projects. This is probably one of the difficult things to do because everybody wants their project first. And you have to look at the projects and see which one can be done and how much does it cost. Is that project, are you going to put like a building as number one? And how much is that building? I know several buildings on the reservation, on the Navajo reservation right now are in between $4 to $8 million for chapter buildings, just community buildings. The Incident Command Center, the last time I looked at it on the ICIP, I believe it's like $17 million for that building. Is that building going to block your other projects? What is the most important project for your community? Then you take those priorities and you go and you go to the New Mexico legislators and the tribal councils. You need to present those priorities and defend them to those people that are going to help you fund it. And I'd like to personally thank New Mexico. New Mexico does a lot for the Navajo Nation. The top 5 priorities are what are listed on the ICIP publication. Those are the most important, but I will tell you one time I helped a chapter and they put one down at the bottom. It was $9,000 and that was the one that got funded and it was at number 20. So you never know what they're going to fund. They do look at your ICIPs. If you want something that's If you put a lower amount in there, they're going to fund that one. So you have to be conscious of that. Regional projects, we talked about that earlier. There is a really good example of a regional project at Bahale and Chichilta. They did a regional land, what is it, a transfer station. They run it themselves. They work on that project for like the past 20 years, and they are constantly updating that area. It's a very good project to look at, and if you need a project that you want to look at for that, I can send you a PowerPoint that was presented about 3 years ago and show you how they did a regional project. The other thing that we have to be cognizant about is that senior centers on tribal land need a lot of help getting their projects on the ICIP. I suggest you put it on both the tribal ICIP, the chapter ICIP, and the senior center ICIP. That way that they work together and come together with their priorities. Next, please. So these are some questions when about tribal budgets. The review of the existing ICIP should include the tribal budget. So what tribal funds from your tribe are available for those capital projects? We're talking $17 million for one project. Most of it's come from, then that's the Shiprock Incident Command. Most of that's come from New Mexico. Some has come from the tribe, but you know, it's easier to get money if you're putting in some of your own money. What tribal funds are available for operating and maintenance? Who's going to take care of this building after it's built? Do you have enough funds to do that? What tribal funds are available for emergencies? I know when they built the Church Rock Senior Center, they started the construction and they found a buried gas line in the back of the where the building was going to be placed. And so that caused, they had to shut down and deal with that, that gas line and moving it out of the construction area. Those things happen and you have to be prepared for them. What's the current budget status of each project? How, right now we're going through, it's the end of the fiscal year. Did you get all your money spent for the appropriations that you have? If not, do you need to adjust your budget again because you're going to lose that money, or did you get it reauthorized? And can you get early cost estimates? Are you working with a project manager? Are you working with somebody who knows how to estimate projects? Next, please. So we're going to take a look at some of the budgets. I know this is going to be changing on the upcoming one, but right now we're going to talk about budget 13. 13 doesn't show once it's published, but inside the ICIP, budget 13 is divided into a table for two. The top part is the secured funding. How much money have you right now? What did you request? How much did you get? What year did you get it? And comments. Have you expended that money? The amount secured right here is very important for budget 14. You need to make sure that it matches funded to date in the budget 14. The second part is the potential funding. Where are you going to look for additional funding? This is not like CPMD's responsibility to find the money for you. You have to go out and find the money. And so, and you need to work with everybody so that they know that how much money is coming in. I think that's all I have to say on that. Next, please. This is budget 14. 14 is really important because it shows what is completed, what's funded to date, and this is where that has to match the secured amount on budget 13. Hopefully the new system will tell you if it's already not matching, so that you know you need to adjust that. So this one right here is telling me they've got the right-of-ways, the acquisition, the art clearance, the environmental studies. They've got the money for the planning and it's complete. They've got the money for the design and it's complete. Construction is not complete. And so they're in the construction phase and they're asking for the furnishing monies. So you have to determine that information so that you know what to ask for next. Did you get any of this money right here on the 500,000 from the last year? Does that need to be updated? Did the cost of your construction blow up and you need more construction money because you haven't got enough money to build the building due to the tariffs? Next, please. And I always like to talk about the legislative language. A lot of people don't really understand it. Legislative language, you don't put justifications into it. You're not trying to sell somebody in your legislative language. If you do that, what happens is they take what you put in there, your justifications, and they write it into the law, and then because you didn't put it into the right order, they then make you do that information. So it's better to just use broad terms in this area. So to this one here, it says to construct and equip improvements. It can only be used for construction and equipping. It cannot be used for planning and design. In the capital outlay bill, they did add plan, design, construct, and equip. It can be used for planning, design, construction, or equipment. Sometimes, I know there was a discussion at one point where they said that this was, how would you say, all of it. But when it's only 100,000 and you've got an $8 million building, you can't use 100,000 to build and equip a building. So that carries from your ICIP to your capital outlay bill. Next, please. To your bond questionnaire, and then into your intergovernmental agreement. So every time that you adjust your legislative language, that's what that $100,000 is for. There was something else I was going to say on that, but I can't remember. If you ask for only the construction, you can't go backwards. You can't. You have to have the terms in there, and then it needs to be in your scope of work attached to your intergovernmental agreement. Next. I think this is Mary Ann's.
Yes, thank you, Denise, for
You're
all of
welcome.
that good information and examples. So here are some of the resources that we do encourage folks to use. So the Council of Government, there are 7 districts around the state, and they are available to assist you if you reach out and you know, work with them on whatever questions or issues you need help with. In some cases, you know, they'll help you from everything with the ICIP to doing funding requests to completing some of the paperwork you need. So they are good resources. We have some online resources on our website, and I put our website link earlier in the chat, so I'll try to bump it up again. But we have a guidelines little booklet, and it has everything from types of infrastructure projects to breaking down the steps, just like Denise did, the steps 1 through 16 that we really recommend folks go through to ensure that the projects that they are proposing are reflective of their community needs and are reflective of, you know, any emergency or to prevent any emergencies in the future. We also have a data entry manual, which helps walk you through how to enter information on the ICIP website. And when we transition to a new website, we'll update those materials, and we'll also do online trainings so that you all have up-to-date information. We also have a checklist, which is just a guide and resource for you all to make sure you're going through all the steps and you're not missing anything. And we have some printout worksheets. So if you prefer to work on paper first versus entering information into the website, you can use those worksheets and work from there, either on your computer or you can print them out. DFA staff. So I make myself pretty available for any assistance. We also have 2 rural frontier equity ombuds who we'll hear from in a minute. And I saw Debbie put a question on why do the COGS insist on having 3 top priority projects? And I was curious if Scott or anyone else had any insight on the COGS process.
Mary Ann, I'm happy to jump in.
Yes, please.
I think it just depends on, it's a cog by cog decision. I used to work at a local public body in the mid-region cog district, and they let us put 5. So I think it just depends on, it's at the discretion of the leadership of each cog district, how they want to wrap up the data for each of the entities in their districts.
Okay, thank you, Haley. Debbie also asked, can more funding be requested to fund underfunded projects from prior years, especially if there are no other funding sources for those projects? So yeah, Debbie, we would definitely encourage you to either re-add them. There is a feature on our current website where if you deactivated it because you thought you had fully funded it or it was no longer a priority, you can reactivate it and just update the information. So we do recommend if you have projects that are only partially funded and they are still a priority for, you know, your chapter, you should definitely re-add those projects. So here are the Council of Governments by county. And some contact information for those different COGs. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or refer to this, and I'll make sure to send this out. So here are the online resources on our website. So you will be able to click on this on the PowerPoint. And I mentioned the data entry manual and the guidelines. We also have previous virtual trainings on our website, which can be good resources. We have a resolution template. So like Denise said earlier, we request a resolution from each entity, but tribes are able to do the resolution or a letter from your leadership. But you can take some of the wording and some of the phrasing from the resolution template for your letters for your leadership. And some folks do that. There's also a user access form for any new staff at your tribe. And we do ask that any new staff who are going to be working on the ICIP do that access form, just so that we can make sure that folks you don't want to have the password or have access to your account don't, and aren't able to access your ICIP account. And it also helps us update our files and keep them up to date so we can send you resources and updates. So here's just another screenshot of some of the resources we have. We also have a calendar with any training dates that we're adding for the Capital Planning and Policy Bureau and for the ICIPs. So right now until July 8th, so just before the tribal entity deadline, I'm having open office hours online on Tuesdays from 3 to 4:30 p.m. So if you do have any questions or you want to walk through how to enter projects, or you have some sort of issue that you need assistance with, or that you need your questions answered, that's an open space. You can jump on whenever, and I'll just be on there. But if that date doesn't work for you, definitely reach out and we can also schedule another time or day. You can also give me a phone call. But we can schedule another day to go over things online where you can share your screen or I can share my screen. And sometimes that visual aid is helpful, more helpful than just going over something on the phone. So I really try to make myself super available and can work with your schedule. And now I'm going to kick it off to Jason Quintana and Michael Gilmore, who are our two Rural and Frontier Equity Ombuds.
Good morning. I guess I can go ahead and go first. Can you hear me, Marianne?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, good. So with IPDD, which is Infrastructure Planning and Development Division, myself and Michael and a lot of the group here kind of got started back in July of last year. I myself came in September. I retired from NMDOT, and then I was the president of Manzano Land Grant and Manzano Acequia Association. So I have experience on being out in entities, and then I came back to work here. So with this position, we're here to help the entities find funding if they need technical assistance. As we're going, we're also learning that there is other things that entities need that we really ourselves didn't know about. So we're growing with all of you as well. And we're here to help you with if you have improvements that you need, trouble communicating with other agencies, training in technical or procedural matters, or if you feel like your community is not being heard, or anything in general. I mean, we're here to have those discussions with you and see how we can help all of you. And if, we might not have all the answers, but we will help you find someone. We'll either help get those answers, or we'll help find the best person to help you with any of the issues that you guys might be facing. I don't know if there's another slide or, I can read through this. The ombuds work on issues of concern to rural and frontier entities, including incorporated municipalities, unincorporated communities, tribes, and special districts such as mutual domestic and soil and water conservation districts. So we try to cover everybody, especially, in the rural and frontier areas, the underserved. There's a lot of entities out there that either do not have enough staff and or are working with volunteers. And, that's one of the biggest reasons we're here is to try to help all of you. The OMBUD is mandated to collaborate with all federal and state agencies, the governor and legislature of New Mexico, nonprofits, and other organizations on behalf of these local public bodies and rural communities. So we're here to help all of you and be that voice or open those doors for you. The ombuds work to provide technical assistance, capacity building, and guidance, interagency collaboration, and advocacy on behalf of our rural communities. The purpose of this advocacy is to level the playing field amongst public entities in our state. So we're here to help all of you be on a level playing field. Along with that, we are hosting capacity building sessions in collaboration with regional councils of government. The first round of training consists of 3 sessions on the following topics: OSA, Office of the State Auditor, Capital Planning and Policy, Local Government Budget Management Systems. So helping, with your audits, ICIP process, and your budgeting and getting your budgets in and if you have any questions with some of that, we have people within the agency that we can connect you with. Capacity trainings are in person. We have had the one in Albuquerque, Silver City has also we've also had that training as well. We still have Gallup on July 12th, Roswell July 23rd, and North Central will be July 26th. So July 12th is on a Saturday, July 23rd is a Wednesday, and July 26th is another Saturday. So we try to have some of these on the weekend to ensure that those people that have to work during the week and are volunteers and so on can also attend these meetings. And if you have any other questions of us, you can reach myself or Michael, and the information's here. I don't know if Michael's on, if he has anything he would like to add. If not, if there's any questions, you can either contact me or you can probably ask them now if you want to.
Thank you, Jason. And feel free to add things in the chat, or if you're still thinking about them, at the end, we'll have more time. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
So one of the last things around the ICIP is how do you submit to complete your ICIP and how you know you're finished. So as mentioned before, we asked for a resolution or letter of approval adopting all the projects that you set forth as priorities for this 5-year period from fiscal year 2027 to fiscal year 2031, so that we know that your community, your government is saying that, yes, these are our priorities and these are things that we're working on and that we approve to have on the ICIP. You only need to submit a new user access form if you have new staff, just to help us update and maintain accurate contact information and prevent unauthorized access to your ICIP account. This form is also available on the DFA website, but if you have any trouble finding it, please let me know. And then we ask you to send those 2 forms to the email on the screen, so that we can keep them and organize them and file them in our system. Lastly is submitting the ICIP completion form. It's a very quick Microsoft Office form, just asking for primary contact information, for your entity, if you have any staff who have left, just so we can make sure to remove them from our contacts, as well as just confirming that you've submitted these documents and you're done with your ICIP. And after we receive that submission on that Microsoft Office form, we will review your ICIP and help identify any errors or updates that need to be made. And if you don't have any errors or updates that need to be made, I'll let you know and I'll say you all are good to go. But if we find out that, you know, the resolution or letter didn't come in, we'll send you an email and ask you for that. So the required docs for completion are on our website. They're on these two tables. So there's a resolution template, which you may find some of the wording on that helpful for letters from your president or governor. There's this access form for new staff only here in pink. And then there's the online form. And if you have any issues finding it, of course, please let me know. So these are some of the funding sources that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about capital outlay and the Tribal Infrastructure Fund and how the ICIP comes into play for both of those things, as well as grants and other funding opportunities. So I'm going to pass it on to the Indian Affairs Department.
Thank you, Marianne. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the Indian Affairs Department has multiple programs and funding sources, and we encourage you to go to the website. This is kept up to date and links are available for the various fundings that are available. Next slide. For capital outlay, most tribal projects do fall under the Indian Affairs Department. We will have a team of 5 people. That's going to be 4 TIF and capital outlay administrators and the manager. Each administrator works with approximately 20 nation, pueblos, and tribes, including Navajo Nation chapters. The list of the breakout of the administrators is available on the website. We will have new staff, and we keep that list updated and available so you're able to access that. We're currently working on a training schedule. We will be able to be going out to the communities. We're going to start that in the next couple of months. And so we're going to be reaching out to our contacts with the nation, pueblos, and tribes to be able to determine if there's specific issues or topics that people would like training on. In the past, IAD has offered training on the scope of work and budget forms, notice of obligation, and pay reimbursement training, as well as the Tribal Infrastructure Fund application. I know DFA also has trainings available on the website. Next slide. I'll turn this one back over to Marianne.
Thank you. Scott, do you want to jump in?
Sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the capital outlay request process. Typically, the deadline for capital outlay is the middle of December. There's 2 types of requests. The first of which is through Legislative Council Services, or LCS. And that's to request capital outlay from a legislative sponsor. You want to do that first because once you do, you can that project or that request is assigned what we call an LCS ID, or Legislative Council Services Identification Number. And the reason you want to do that is in the event that you want to also get a request into the Office of the New Mexico Governor. Their website does require an LCS ID. So the order of operations is to go through the legislative LCS process and then through the executive. This is what the forms look like for the LCS because it requires a signature from the legislative sponsor. You can complete the form online or you can print it out and have it signed by the sponsor. And so a few differences about the different funding sources. Severance tax bonds are affiliated with the extraction of minerals from the oil and gas industry. There is a New Mexico administrative code that guides the process for capital outlay as it relates to severance tax bonds. The State Board of Finance oversees the severance tax bonds, or STBs. They approve the questionnaires. They have bond sales twice a year. So if you have projects that have questionnaires associated with severance tax bonds, you do have a total of 2 years to complete those questionnaires. So if you don't get them completed the first time around, that is okay. You do have other opportunities, and it is okay to not be ready. Sometimes you may get a project that you didn't anticipate, or an appropriation that you didn't anticipate. And if you're not ready to start that project, it's also okay to decline that funding at the moment, knowing that you will have an opportunity to resubmit a questionnaire in 6 months. The general fund is overseen by the infrastructure division here. We review all of the questionnaires. I think we're up to, from the House Bill 450 this year, I think we're up to about 1,200 questionnaires that were approved for funding. So that's exciting. And so a lot of folks are completing the questionnaires when they're ready. So we all appreciate that. General obligation bonds, also overseen by State Board of Finance. These kind of go on an alternating year. So the voters typically vote in even years, and then the funding becomes available if it's approved in odd years. So we did have some GOBs that were that are going to be authorized during the spring, and those projects can start moving forward as well. GOB or general obligation bonds are overseen also by State Board of Finance. So if you need a cheat sheet, if the word bonds are in there, it's going to be State Board of Finance. And if it's general fund, it's going to be infrastructure.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. The Tribal Infrastructure Fund was created by the Tribal Infrastructure Act in 2005. The application portal for the TIF applications is open the first Friday in February. That is American Indian Day in New Mexico. The portal is open for 30 days, though it can be extended. For example, this year we did extend that date. Next slide. So TIF is competitive funding. All federally recognized nation pueblos or tribes in New Mexico are eligible to apply. The application portal allows for uploading of your supporting documentation, and all applications must be submitted through this portal. The TIF application does require that your project is listed on your ICIP. Every nation, pueblo, and tribe, you have a code that is for your individual projects. It's not enough just to list your ICIP identification number. You need to list the project number. If your project is not on your ICIP, this is a disqualifier for the TIF application. There are two guidelines, two requirements that you have to have in order to apply for TIF. That is the project listed on the ICIP, and that your tribe is compliant with EO 2013-006. Next slide. The TIF applications are judged based on 4 criteria areas for a possible total of 100 points. This is critical need for 30 points, project readiness for 30 points, capacity for 25, and leveraging for 15. The TIF board, the Tribal Infrastructure Fund Review Committee reviews all applications and scores accordingly. Next slide. This graphic shows us the Tribal Infrastructure Fund amounts and number of projects from 2006 through this year, currently for 2025. You can see the number of projects listed above each bar graph. We recently, the TIF board meeting was recently held, and $80,574,000 was awarded to 28 projects. Next slide. Okay. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. It's amazing to hear how many projects were funded this year. And now we're going to pass it off to Haley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Haley. I'm one of the deputy directors here in the infrastructure division, and I wanted to share a little bit about our funding navigation process that we offer as the technical assistance resource here in the infrastructure division that may be of interest to you all if you're looking to find funding to complete a capital project. So the purpose of the funding navigation technical assistance is to help entities in securing financial resources for a capital project. We will help you identify funding opportunities from federal, state, and private sources, provide continuous support throughout that process, and we have a full-time FTE dedicated to helping serve as your funding navigator to support these requests. I include these pictures on this slide because I think, a lot of us, when we think about how to fund our capital project, we think perhaps we get a capital outlay grant, or that our local entity matches that capital outlay grant with just cash, or if you're an entity that has bonding capacity, maybe you do bonds and a cash match. Whereas we know often, and I think, we've seen this kind of come up in the chat throughout this call today, that a capital outlay grant might not get you across the finish line on a project in a significant way. And you may have a funding gap or cost overruns that you need more money to complete that project. And so the purpose of this program, the funding navigation program, is to help you think about how to create capital stacks, like what's pictured here on the right. So how do you take federal grants, cash, a public-private partnership, a state grant, and maybe a bond to fund your complete project? And so we'll help you kind of think about all the different funding sources you can put together to get across the finish line on your project. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so just to give you a glance at this process, the first step into getting into our queue for funding navigation support is to submit the funding navigation questionnaire. And you can access that at the QR code here or at the link that's on the slideshow. It's also available on our website. You fill out this questionnaire. It's a really short questionnaire that helps us gain a little bit more information about your project. Some of this information may be contained on your ICIP, but we're asking for a little bit more specific information so that we understand exactly where you are in the planning process for this project. After you do that, we'll schedule a time to do an intake call with you so that we can chat about your project, ask any follow-up questions we have after you filled out the questionnaire, and just get to know you and your project a little bit better. At that point, we'll take all that information we've collected so far and create a funding recommendation memo for your entity that specifies what grants you're eligible for and what funding may be a good fit for your project. So not only will we list out all the things that you may qualify for based on our situational awareness, but we will also rank them in the way that we think, based on where you are in your project and your funding needs, what might be the best way to approach applying for those opportunities. And then lastly, we'll do a technical assistance call with you to review that memo and help you strategize what your next steps might be. But first step to get in this process is to fill out that funding navigation questionnaire. And let's just briefly chat about the benefits to our participants. We've had over 75 public entities, including some tribes, participate in this process so far. On the right, there's a picture of kind of what these memos look like when they get to you. This one was for Sierra County looking for an emergency operations center facility funding. But we are able to provide you expert guidance on navigating complex funding landscapes, I don't know how many of you have ever tried to go on grants.gov and just read it. It's really often not in super common English. It's sometimes really technically complicated, and it can be really confusing, right, frankly. And so we're able to take the information on various grant programs, not just federal grant programs, but all grant programs, and help you translate that to your project. Like I said, we have access to diverse funding sources. We pay for subscriptions to help us complete this process so that we can really see the full landscape of grant opportunities that are available. As I mentioned before, we'll help you identify ways to build a capital stack so that you can get your project across the finish line and identify multiple sources of capital that will get you to a fully funded capital project. We have the ability to provide technical assistance with applications. So if you identify that you want to go after a certain grant as a part of this process, we can then connect you in with some technical assistance providers who can support you in that process. And like I said, we're really just trying to get you to fully fund your capital projects. We understand that sometimes you get piecemealed funding, you get a little bit here, a little bit there, and you don't know how to get to 100%. So this process is to help you think about and strategize how to get you to 100%. Marianne, I think that is my last slide.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley. So I just want to acknowledge we may go over time a little bit because we do have 3 examples from 3 different communities. So if you need to leave at 11:30, you know, please do. And when I send out the recording and the presentation, I'll highlight when the community presentations start so that we ensure that you all are able to listen in and catch anything you missed. So I'm going to pass it off to Christy Ladd from the Pueblo of Poake.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me, Marianne?
Yeah, I can hear you. Fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. I was asked by Indian Affairs Department just to give a brief 5-minute presentation on kind of what works for us and what's been successful. So instead of highlighting a project, I just kind of want to talk about successful project planning. So you can go ahead and jump to the next one. Thank you. So we're pretty good about, actually, we're very good about keeping traction on all of our projects and really vetting them over the period of, 1 to 5 years. So when we're in the planning process, we're already thinking about design and design going into construction. So right now, these are just some of our highlighted projects. We just barely started and really putting a new project on a housing development. Our library resource center, we're finished with planning, so we're going to be looking into design. The arrows mean that first phase is already completed. Family services facility is also something new. So our early childhood education center is currently being fully designed. So we're really going to be focusing on state capital outlay and federal funding for construction. Same with our behavioral health facility. I'll talk about that in a minute. And our community centers under design. So we have 4 major projects underneath design that we need about probably $30 million to construct. So we're looking at our different leveraging and our different options right now and vetting those out through our ICIP priorities. You can go to the next one. So behavioral health annex is the one I'd like to talk about. In 2022, this has been within our top 5 ICIP priorities, and we received $1.4 million. So, and really just trying to, instead of just trying to do one meaningful project, we stretch it out as much as we possibly could. So we were able to complete all the renovations at our counseling center, design and construction of an existing building, and we're also completing final design of phase 2. So phase 2, of course, is going to be one of our biggest priorities this year. And leveraging our funds. So, and then we go back to the plan, design, construct. So just trying to see the best ways we can do to accomplish that. And you can go to the next slide. So we utilize the capital outlay requests to request funding from Martin Heinrich's office for CDS funding, which we were successful in doing. Then I was able to combine those 2 awards as matching towards our tribal infrastructure fund grant application for just over $2.2 million this year. So this is a really great example on different sources and leveraging and really vetting out projects for a period of 5 years for successful completion. So we intend on keeping this in the ICIP top 5. I always do. I never remove it, even though we're saying, oh, it's fully funded. we're going to complete construction now. Once in a while, something will happen. And it's happened in the past. And so once we deactivate that project, and we actually do need a little bit more money because of what's going on in the industry and it's on the ICIP, we have to reach back out to DFA and reactivate projects. So we might bump it down once it's fully funded, but we will keep it on the ICIP until the project is definitely 100% complete. You can go to the next slide. I know it was talked about earlier about utilizing the ICIP as a tool. One thing I really like to do in even all of my federal grant applications is I include a copy of my ICIP project and what the ranking is, especially when it's within the top 5. It shows not just the state, but also federal funding agencies that the project is a top priority for tribal council, that it's been vetted, that we have real costs associated to it, and it's been well planned out. So it actually is a really good tool, not just with planning, but showing the feds for those applications that were ready. So it was discussed a little bit earlier that legislators normally do just look at the top 5 priorities. Once in a while, they'll grab something that's a little bit less money towards the bottom of the list that they can afford, but the focus really is on the top 5. I talked about the second part. I know that Indian Affairs talked about TIF, and we talked about multiple funding sources. It's really important you indicate those on your ICIP. So when you're doing your TIF grant applications, you can also show the TIF board that your projects have been vetted and you're not just solely depending on either capital outlay or just TIF, that you have a broad variety of things that you're looking for. And TIF in the past, I don't know if it changed or was misconceived, but your project a few years back had to be in the top 5 in order to apply for TIF. Now, so long as it's on the ICIP in any rating or ranking, it qualifies. So it doesn't have to be on the top 5. I don't believe Indian Affairs mentioned that, but I think it helps for it to be on the top 5, just so it shows that it really is a high priority for the tribal council. Okay, you can jump to my next one. All right, so this is just a couple of pictures because I wanted to be brief. This is the renovation project that we're wrapping up this month. This is the phase 1 of the behavior health renovation. And then you can go to the next one. And then our phase 2 expansion is fully designed. And this is the one that we were able to get multiple funding sources from Senator Heinrich, from TIF, and for capital outlay. So as soon as the TIF awards are formalized and we get IGAs from everybody else we need to, and Senator Heinrich, I know you don't like shovel ready, but this one actually is shovel ready and we're ready to go on it. So just a few highlights on what's been working for the Pueblo, Pewaukee and successful ICIP planning, and not just throwing things together, but really putting a lot of thought, cost estimating, and, a lot of thinking into all of our projects to get them vetted. So that's all I have, Marianne. You said keep it brief, so that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much. I feel like that was super helpful and you had a lot of good pointers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll pass it over to Monica from IAD.
Hi. Yeah, this year I was able, myself and Maureen Ayers, previous project manager, we were able to participate in a moment of celebration and progress along with Governor Thomas Moquino Jr. and Lieutenant Governor Raymond Aguilar and tribal officials and the dedicated labor crews gathered to witness the 3 Santo Domingo families receive the keys to their newly built homes. They were funded through capital outlay, and this milestone underscores the Pueblo's ongoing commitment to securing safe and quality housing for their people. And the newly constructed homes reflect the resilience of the Santo Domingo Pueblo and the collective effort to ensure that families have a strong foundation for generations to come. Tribal officials expressed gratitude for the dedication of those who contributed to this project, reaffirming the Pueblo's mission to enhance the well-being of its community members. Santo Domingo got funding from capital outlay, and they do have other funding to complete these projects from TIF and capital outlay. Next slide. These are just some of the pictures that we took that day that we were there. This one for Chichitla Vanderwagen chapter, the water system project. This one, it was after more than a decade of planning and perseverance and advocacy, the Navajo Nation proudly celebrated the groundbreaking ceremony of the Chichitla Vanderwagen chapter water system project. This long-awaited development is set to provide access to clean and reliable water for at least 200 homes. Officials emphasize that this project is a testament to the commitment of leaders and community members who have worked tirelessly to make it a reality. The groundbreaking represents not just the beginning of construction, but a transformative step toward ensuring water security for families who have waited years for this vital resource. And this also got funds from capital outlay and tribal in the TIF. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Here are some more photos from the groundbreaking. And to end, here's a full staff list. It'll be in the PowerPoint, as well as all of the different bureaus that are in our new Infrastructure Planning and Development Division here at DFA. And thank you all. We would love to answer any questions from anyone. I saw Mark Thompson had raised his hand, so I didn't know if he still wanted to say something.
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions? I'll be looking at the chat, but feel free to raise your hand or come off mute. Yes, Angela.
Thank you. My question has to do with the DFA's planning and policy division or department. The process that I believe it was Jason described is the process for all ICIP and not just for the TPN. Is it correct to say?
I'm not sure what the, oh, I hear you. For the rural and frontier equity ombuds assistance?
Yes.
Yeah, so for their services, and feel free to jump in, Jason, they're available to help any entity. They're also available to help with everything from like funding navigation, because they are in the Capital Navigation and Funding Assistance Bureau. Even if folks need assistance with their ICIP, they're able to help, as well as many other different services. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that there's services that we don't even know that we can help with yet, and that's the question is asked. So there, anything that you guys might have questions on, we will try to find answers to help any of the entities. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Christy.
Yeah, hi again. I would just like to request that there be some clarification on the separation of the senior program ICIP and the tribal ICIP. It is my understanding that you cannot put the senior program projects onto the tribal ICIP. It specifically is separated because of ALTSD requirements. So I just wanted some clarification, because if senior programs projects can be put on the tribe's ICIP, I have been misinformed. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, as far as I know, and Scott can jump in too, you can put senior center projects on your tribe's ICIP, but Aging and Long-Term Services and the state does request that you put your senior center projects on the senior center ICIP, but you can add them to the tribal one as well. And it's the case that the state is trying to make sure that senior center renovations and needs are being met. So definitely add them to the senior center ICIP account so that, you know, it can be a higher priority on that ICIP. But if you would like to add specific projects to your tribal ICIP, you should definitely do so. Nadine. Can you come off mute?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. This message is to Kiwa Housing for your presentation. Thank you very much. Congratulations on your project. I just wanted to get a breakdown of what your ask was. Did you get funding from capital outlay or to complete your housing project? And what was it for, infrastructure, or was it for the construction of the home? Thank you.
Sorry, Nadine, this is Tasanaki with IAD. Was your question regarding the Santo Domingo housing?
Yeah.
That was funded with a combination of capital outlay and TIF funding. We can get, I can get her somewhere. We can get you some more information after the training.
Okay. I'll reach out to you by email.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. And there was a question prior to the training, and it was, are there any specific staff members who are assigned to each tribe per project? So I'm assuming that's related to TIF and capital outlay at IED. So just curious if you all break down by region or area at all. Go ahead.
Thanks, Marianne. I just wanted to clarify the housing project that we shared some information on. That is not individual privately owned homes. Those are the Pueblo tribal housing.
Awesome. And then can you all give insight on how project managers are assigned for each tribe for Kapaole and TIF?
Sure, I apologize for missing that. We do have a link posted on the website that people are welcome to go see and download. It is broken up, yes, by region. As mentioned, each administrator manages and works with approximately 20 nation pueblos or tribes, including Navajo Nation chapters that have been assigned to each individual.
Awesome, thank you. George, can you come off mute?
Thank you very much. I just had a quick question. I was assisting a special district, a tribal entity that has a board. For the ICIP, do they need a board resolution, or is just a letter from like the chair sufficient, or what's the requirements for that?
Could you say what entity it is?
Rima Navajo Utility Authority.
Oh, I believe that it can be a resolution from the board of the utility, and it doesn't need to come from the chapter president. But let me double check and just make sure that the chapter president doesn't need to provide a letter as well.
So the chapter does their own ICIP, so it's separate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So previously, the board of the utility has provided a resolution, but we're just kind of running out of time. So just wondering if a letter from the chair was sufficient, or if it was required to be from the board.
If it's classified as a special district, I believe the resolution is needed. But
Okay.
I'll follow up with you because we can also extend the deadline, because the deadline for special districts is June 13th, which is in 9 days.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Of course. And then there was also a previous question on whether or not CPMS, which is the Capital Appropriations reporting site, is going to get changed or updated. And It will, along with the ICIP website, they'll be in the same website with different modules. So that will be updated as well. And Bernadette from the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe asked, does any awarded funding have to be expended in a specific time period? So for capital outlay appropriations, there is a reversion date deadline, and it's anywhere from 2 years to 4 years. And I can send you information on how to double check on what your reversion date is, Bernadette. But you do have the opportunity, if you receive a capital outlay appropriation and you're not able to use it within that date, you are able to request during the legislative session that that appropriation get extended and reauthorized. For TIF, are there any specific guidelines in terms of expending funding in a specific time period or ability to extend it?
Yes, Marianne, thank you. The IGA states the reversion date. TIF IGAs are typically from 36 months from execution. Projects are allowed to submit a no-cost extension. No-cost extension does have to be presented to the TIF board and approved.
Thank you all. If you all have any other questions, of course, feel free to follow up by phone or email. But thank you all for making the time and spending an hour and 45 minutes with us today. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and good luck with all of your infrastructure projects for your communities.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.